Well, other than the US, horse racing is a money earner around the world. Prize money for the races around the world reached $3.7 billion in 2016. Bets placed globally generated over $127 billion in revenue, with over 60% of that coming from Asia. At the Kentucky Derby this year, it's reported that more punters are placing bets using Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And racing authorities in the UK and Ireland are trying to get freedom of movement for thoroughbred racehorses after Brexit. The horse racing industry is worth $7 billion in the two countries and effectively operate as one industry. Well, to talk more about the horse racing industry, I have George Kaywood. George is a horse racing expert and founder of the website handicapping.com. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Very good to be with you.
Now, most people outside this industry don't understand how valuable it is globally and the economic impact it has on jobs. So break that down for us.
I think in order to appreciate what you're talking about, Rachelle, you have to zero in on the individual racetrack and the community around it itself. I've lived in several cities where there has been one of those, and I've also been in a couple of cities among those which have closed for various reasons. And when they close, the personality of the whole community changes. There are a lot of jobs that change immediately, and it becomes a totally different community. When it's active, there can be, for a medium-sized American city, for example, 120 filled buses from as far as 300 miles away attending the races for one afternoon. Multiply that by the amount of money spent on hot dogs, drinks, and flat-out betting, the way you referred to the wagering before in your opening comments, and you can see how much of an impact that really has that sort of isn't really seen by the media until you start talking the huge numbers you mentioned before.
So let's also look at how valuable these major races are. For example, the Kentucky Derby. How valuable is that to the industry overall?
Extremely valuable. The Kentucky Derby more or less is the start of the American racing season. Now this year in particular, we have gone through, most of the United States has gone through a tremendously tough winter, and it's just flat out cold. Whenever the Kentucky Derby rolls around, the first Saturday in May, everything is bright. Even if it's raining, the flowers are blooming, the grass is finally starting to emerge from a muddy ground, and there's an air of excitement and a sort of a feeling of, finally, we're back to something we can all enjoy, we can watch, we can bet on if you are a racing fan with that type of interest. And it sort of kicks off the unofficial racing season throughout the rest of the year with, as you know, a couple of other big races that follow this one.
Now, a lot of countries are involved in this, so let's look globally. We know that China is among the top horse industry markets. You have North America leading the way, Europe, the UK, Ireland, and Australia. How would you say China's market has developed over the years?
To be very honest with you, I don't think most Americans who go to the races, the betting public, if you will, have a deep awareness of it until this year and this particular race when it's broadcast worldwide tomorrow. And that is because there will be much talk in the media, the national media, about the fact that we have the China Horse Club 2 entries. And of those 2 entries, one I expect to be the favorite. That's going to create a lot of buzz. The second favorite may also be one of the China horses, and that's unusual. That's very unusual here in the United States. So you're going to get a lot of trade talk and man-on-the-street talk going on as a result of that.
So as we look at the trade talk then, how concerned are people in the industry about the trade tensions between the US and China and the impact that that might have on the market's growth?
I haven't heard or seen anything like that. It's a wait-and-see game, really, is what it is, Rachelle, because when you look back a couple of years, there seemed to be a great groundswell of interest from the Arab world, with horses coming in from Saudi Arabia and doing very well. But it never really seemed to catch on because there wasn't any following, there wasn't any niche. I think with the fact that the horses that are coming in from China this year are also partially owned by American interests, and they've already started out very, very well in the races they have been in so far this year before the Derby tomorrow. I think there's going to be a lot more of slowly building awareness among the man in the street, the $2 bettor, and the people who will bet hundreds, if not thousands of dollars at the races.
Now let's take a look at the industry itself. We saw that some of the ownership and products market declined and then worsened when we had this great recession in 2009. So how is the industry faring now, and how is it trying to modernize itself?
As far as it's faring right now, again, it's the start of the year here in the United States, so things are really sort of going from neutral to first gear. What I think is going to happen is that it's going to be a very, very good year because you have a lot of media coverage of the Kentucky Derby this year, perhaps more than in past years. And I think the public's going to follow it very closely because the media will be following it. At this particular time, let me give you an example. We are coming off of a sports period, let's call it, the very tail end of it, where we have major sports like baseball, basketball, hockey, all coming to a close at the same time, all coming up to a crescendo. What's going to be there to replace that? Horse racing, starting tomorrow and then going on to the next two, and then the various big races throughout the year, all the way through the Breeders' Cup in the fall.
All right, well, thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there. George Kaywood, horse racing expert and founder of handicapping.com.